So your next step is to do your background, and if you've done this with me before, you remember we used tissue paper that bleeds in order to have a mottled background. If you are lucky enough to have tissue paper that bleeds at home, because obviously we can't go out and get things at the moment, can we? But if you have any tissue paper from the works, and later on when things get better you can always get some, it's only £1 for 80 sheets. I know this particular one bleeds its colour, so it's really useful, whereas a lot of tissue paper these days are colour fast and you can't use it in this way. If you haven't got tissue paper, I will show you how to use this in a minute, but if you haven't got tissue paper, you can use normal water-based paints, you could use watercolour pencils, you could use watercolour inks if you're lucky enough to have something like these watercolour inks. That's my next favourite thing to use, as you probably know. Otherwise, any kind of watered down paint will do the job. By the way, I should have said at first that if you can, please try to use heavy paper because that will come out better. Watercolour paper is ideal, but obviously you can't always get that, but just the heaviest paper that you can use, the better. Okay, right, so I'm going to show you how to use the tissue bleeding. We need to get some water. If you've got a water sprayer at home, that's fantastic. I don't have one, so I'm just going to put water on the page with the brush. This won't mess up what you've already done because that's oil-based. Unless, of course, you're using pencils, in which case you might need to be a little bit careful around the edges of your picture. So we need a good bit of water on here. Okay, once you've done that, you need to make sure your hands aren't too wet, because otherwise the tissue will bleed all over your hands, which it may well do anyway, but as soon as we're washing our hands a million times a day, that's not really a problem at the moment. So I'm going to start with some glue. You just need to tear it up into smaller pieces and put it on top of the water, anywhere you like. And then we're going to overlap with other colours. We need to keep reapplying the water because water is really important at this stage. So as you can see, the colours are bleeding into one another in a really exciting way. I'm sure you're going to love doing this. You need to put lots of water over the top to make sure the colour seeps out of the tissue paper and onto your picture. And then after that you just need to let it dry and these tissue papers will flake off. So I'm just going to set that one aside and then I'll show you how to do it with the paints or the inks if you're using them instead. So here's another one. So we start in the same way. Let's just, actually let me clear this out of the way first. Right, so we need to put water on our paper first, again. And then this time we're just going to drop some of the ink colour into the water and let it merge together. This is messy, so if you're going to do this then you need to have newspaper underneath or do it outside like me. And seeing as we're in lockdown, we might as well sit in our gardens and do this and enjoy ourselves. But you need to be somewhere where mess doesn't matter, like my dirty table doesn't matter. So if you're using inks, you don't need a whole lot because a goes ever such a long way. Make sure you've got lots of water all the time. You can always drop more water on. Wash your brush in between. I think I might want some lighter colour in there now. So maybe I'll just use a very watered down red colour to make it a bit like pink. I'm just going to drop a little bit more water on just to make it blend. So now, because it's very dribbly and wet, I don't really want to move that until it's dried quite a lot. The colours will go along their own pathway. Some of it might dribble off onto the table or the newspaper, and they will make their own mottled pattern. So when that's dry, I think that will be a really beautiful background to our bright heart. This one as well, if you can imagine that when this is dry, the tissue paper will come off and then it will leave a bit more muted and underwater looking mottled background as well. But both of these you can see are very bright. So why don't you have a go at making one of these, stick it in your window, and then you can, if Mum and Dad are on Facebook, they might be able to put it on and tag it as through my window. If not, you can just let passers-by be encouraged by your beautiful picture, because when people are going out to the shops for their emergency errands, they will be so encouraged to see your beautiful artwork. And if you wanted to add a message on, if you want to do a really big one of these, you could add a message on in your own writing, or you could collage a message using words or letters from a magazine or a newspaper to say something like keep smiling, or some kind of positive message that will encourage somebody else, because art is such a powerful medium for encouraging other people. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed our little art lesson there. I've certainly enjoyed it. So let's do this again. I will post some more things for you to keep you going over this time. Keep safe. Bye.